Welcome back to the old Doctor Who show, your not really classic, and now every weekly Doctor Who review podcast.
Can you believe it's going to be every week?
Eric, so far so good.
There's only 24 episodes in this season, right? Could you imagine if we had done like Simon and Simon or like Law and Order podcast or something, and you got trapped in those 24-week network TV seasons built for syndication? They
were doing like recap blogs for the longest time, so you'd have to like as soon as the show would air, be typing furiously to get your blog post.
Right now, there's like some back room, it's Gawker Media or whatever. There's some back room office with just a bunch of skeletons hunched over, typing about like Love Island or something
on their power books. It's great. Eric,
no, Dan, we're here. We're Doctor Who in it.
We're Whoing it up.
I'm very excited. I mean, there's so much to talk about today. There's a lot to talk about today. Okay. One thing that I want to get done because maybe somebody's listening to the old Doctor Who show or tuning in or watching, however you're consuming us for the first time, and you're not aware of these theories that I keep beating to the ground. And as of last week, if you listen to our last review, I was all but ready to bury this theory in the yard. Now I'm not sure. Maybe I was a little premature in my murder of my own dreams. So to recap, right? So theory number one is what I've called the ruptured timeline theory, right?
And if you wanted to see this,
there's
video for it.
Many other videos. But if you don't want to do that, just very briefly, the natural order of things, Dan, was supposed to be Jodie Whittaker to Ncuti Gatwa. That was the timeline that should have happened. But the Doctor decided to come back as David Tennant.
And now I've got this old face back again. I mean, why? Why? I ask of you, my brand new friend. Why?
Which caused this ruptured timeline. It sort of broke the universe. They're existing in this Donnie Darko type situation. It's not real, and it's sort of collapsing on itself. And we heard the Doctor say in that Christmas, or not the Christmas special, the Children in Need special.
The timelines of the canon are rupturing. I'm just going to go, and you're not going to say a word.
That's why we're seeing things like Mavity and little weird things, and maybe people breaking the fourth wall, and the whole thing is sort of falling apart. So that's sort of the setting the table, as it were. And because of that, like, it's not going to be fixed until these two guys merge back, right? David Tennant is going to have to leave the table, merge back into Ncuti Gatwa. Whatever happens at that point, it will be righted. I will point out, without jumping too far ahead, because we are going to be reviewing Boom, the Doctor said, you've been living in a blip to Ruby at one point. Is that literally because he's making a comment because, you are unaware that the church is very much involved in the military-industrial complex, and you sort of been kidding yourself? But he did say you've been living in a blip, as if he's sort of aware of this non-universe or other universe or ruptured universe, right?
Right.
So there's sort of that theory. Mavity, last week I had said, I guess it's over with Mavity, right? I didn't remember any Mavity things. And then a listener, Chuck S., had pointed out, like, no, in Space Babies, I guess on a screen or a computer screen, right, it had said something about Mavity. So Mavity is still very much a part of our life. So I'm not ready really to abandon that piece of information, or that theory rather.
Yeah, I think it's really good. I mean, there's still, what was the try to remind me, because we've watched it, but then I immediately forget every episode. Wild Blue Yonder.
So it was Wide Blue Yonder.
It's a Wild Blue Yonder.
Blue Yonder.
And then that was the whole thing where Donna was talking about her teacher, and it was a war song, and why is the TARDIS playing a war song? So there's clearly things are not normal, right? Yeah. And I had also said, Davros is not in a wheelchair. Like, there are things that are no longer, that were canon, that have now changed, and all sorts of things are going on. Is it all connected? Is it me overlooking, reading into things that aren't there? I'm not so sure. Mavity is clearly something.
Yes, Mavity something. But then we have a new thing as well.
To me, it makes sense that this is clearly a ruptured timeline. But yes, what were you going to say?
Well, the new thing we have as well. So it doesn't connect back to Mrs. Flood
yes.
yet.
Yes, and save that too, because I want to talk about the sibling theory, which ties into Mrs. Flood.
But the one thread that we're seeing through all of these stories now is this recurring woman played by the actress Susan Twist.
Yes, which I completely
missed. Small
missed.
Cameos from episode to episode.
Yes.
So she was first the woman in the leather jacket in the club when Ruby was playing with her band that makes a request for a song they don't know. She was the tea woman in Maestro. She was on the video feed as one of the
right.
Yep. And now in this episode, she's the hospital
or the ambulance, rather.
Yeah, that's the word.
Yes,
ambulance. She was. Yeah. Anyway, so she's running through all this in some way. So
the second thing that I've been harping on and won't shut up about is that Ruby and the Doctor are siblings. That they were born of the same mother. They're both timeless children. They were both abandoned and raised as foundlings. And I had said, oh, Mrs. Flood is their mother. And then Russell T. Davies is going to show some montage and you're going to see that Mrs. Flood was always there. And she was in the background and she was an extra character. And the Doctor's mom had been watching him the whole time and how sweet. And there's a bit of heart to that. And maybe I was wrong, and it wasn't Mrs. Flood. It was this other character who I completely missed. Listeners had pointed that out. I had not picked up on it. We sort of harped on the idea that they had the lunch lady had said something. I think that's when people schooled us on it. It was like Mrs. Lockwood or
you're referring to an actress.
Yes, which was from a movie about a woman from I remember that turns bad, that starts doing crime. I don't know if that's connected to it. But clearly there is a character that is repeating. There is the word harbinger, which has been sort of repeated
a lot. The one who waits, we know. I mean, that's the harbinger of the one who waits. So is that...
and the little boy, like last time I had
Harry
posed
Harbinger,
to you, like, is the little boy at the end that wasn't dancing the same little boy from the beginning? And yes, it was. Who is said to be the son of the Maestro, so like that whole weird pantheon, and the endless type universe that's existing, and we've asked, like, is it Black Guardian, White Guardian? I'm seeing a lot of people
if it was
make
Black
those
Guardian,
theories.
White Guardian, that would be fantastic. So I stumbled upon someone else's theory as I was posting on Twitter because there's no way to avoid spoilers on Twitter, and I started reading through their theory of it. This whole Pantheon thing, if it's correct, does connect to other things that have happened in classic Who. So we will see if this all actually...
Yeah, I've seen two, maybe there's more, but I've seen two sort of ties to people theorizing that it was... Going back to Peter Davison's episode, The Visitation? No, not The Visitation. It's the one where they're doing space yacht racing.
Okay.
And there was someone who was waiting for
Time
Tegan, right? And so maybe that was the one who waits. And then I saw the other day someone had tied it to a Tom Baker story, which now I'm blanking on. So people are finding things. And we had said, it's like Omega 2. It could be Omega.
Is Omega dead?
Well, he seemed to die before when he returned to confound us all.
So, it's vague enough that you can see patterns in all of the chaos, which I think I'm certainly guilty of. But when I tell you, when Ruby dies and then literally starts to regenerate into the new actress who is Veranda Sethu, right? Who's also in the one we're about to watch, so we'll have to talk about that. But then I will be the one who's laughing, right?
Sure.
And also, the one who waits, like if Steven Moffat were writing it, not Russell T. Davies, I'd be like, there's something to that. Like the one who waits, it's another doctor. It's another incarnation of the doctor that is shushing them. And it's going to be Jodie Whittaker or something because it's, the one who, that one Doctor Who. Yeah.
Also, I mean, I will say Moffat wrote Boom that we're about to talk about, but also is an executive producer. I don't know if executive producer on the series as a whole, but at least on this episode is an executive producer. So don't discount the Moffat influence on all of this as well.
And some other bits that have fed into this or discounted the theories. Like we know now the Maestro, when she is reading Ruby says like something's not right. There's something in there. Oh my God, the one who waits was there at that time. Is it the time that it's snowing? It seems to all be connected to that one snowing moment when the doctor is there, but also the woman that is turned and is pointing. So clearly, is her mom the one who waits? Like, so there's.
Can I say something about that as well? So
Yes.
in Maestro, whenever in that scene when Ruby's up in the air and wrapped around to music, and the Maestro is going to be pulling music out of, there's a song in there that doesn't belong. Remember, we mentioned that there's this kind of very Doctor Who, but like song in the background, and I didn't know if that was diegetic from the show.
Yeah,
or if that was the song coming out of her, but it was very unlike anything else, but it sounded very Doctor Who. Apparently, that is a callback to that music being played elsewhere, but we would never have known about it because it was in Sarah Jane Adventures.
That particular piece of music?
Yes, which ties into this overall theory that I haven't really gone into. So
yeah,
there is something
you mentioned the word
pulling
diegetic, right? We had not mentioned there's a point that happens in the Maestro where the music is building and the doctor's like, oh, I thought that was... diegetic, which is very a fourth,
so funny.
A Deadpool, a She-Hulk type of, they're aware. And it seems like the doctor is aware that he is outside in this other, that's why, again, it feels like it's part of the ruptured universe. And maybe the doctor is aware of it. Like he does say gravity before correcting himself to Mavity when he's talking to Donna, as if he is sort of aware.
Well, that doctor was.
Yeah. Well, I feel like they're all the same doctor.
Well, I don't know. I mean, with the rupture between the two of them in the bi-generation,
it's the same doctor. Even though there's two doctors, they're the same doctor. They have the same. Like even Ncuti Gatwa says, "I remember this. I was also with Adric." They both say that Adric moment, right? So they're the same person.
I'm not disagreeing with you on that, but I don't know if he has the same perception that.
I'm saying he does, right? Because we saw David Tennant do it, and we also saw Ncuti Gatwa say, I thought that music was as if
diegetic.
They're like both doctors are aware that something isn't right.
Something's I definitely the breaking the fourth wall, winking at the camera. That is very much this doctor doing that. We didn't see Tennant's doctor doing it.
No, he didn't break the fourth.
We have Tennant's doctor.
No, Tennant's doctor did do it. He says the canon's change. Like the word canon implies a show.
Do you mean this is the genesis of the Daleks?
I don't know about that. I wouldn't read too much into that one. I know what you're saying, but I don't think I wouldn't take that.
We're reading too much into all of it.
But I would say
that's our whole point of being.
Tennant's doctor does understand that Mavity gravity has happened, that there's a split there. I don't know that Gatwa's doctor has done that specific thing. So if we're looking for like very specific things, I think
I'm not talking specific things.
Different two sides of the same coin. They both know that they both are in on the fact that something is wrong or something's different. I just think maybe they're seeing it from different perspectives.
Fine, but it's clearly that they know that they are in a show. Like it's hyper aware to we're outside of the show looking into the show. Like
totally agree with
Ncuti Gatwa did do the look to the camera before the dance routine. He did mention the music being non-diegetic, and you have the doctor in that. Whether we take that as canon or not, it's written by Russell T Davies. I'm going to say it's canon. It's talking about the canon changing.
I don't think that canon itself only refers to TV. I think that could just be the Time Lord's canon of history. It could be any. So that one, I agree with you.
I guess, but the fact 100%. That he also, I don't know. It doesn't matter. Clearly something.
No, it does. This is all that matters. Weird. This is literally everything.
Yeah.
Do we want to just jump in?
Let's jump into the. Yeah, we can shake the crime stick at this point, unless you have something else.
Shake the crime stick.
One wrong move and. Boom. Ooh, I am having a day.
Okay, are you getting scared because you're just babbling now?
I will shatter this silly little battlefield of yours into dust.
This is the old Doctor Who show. This is episode number 3. Dan, episode number 3 of season number 1, but also 14, but also like whatever. I don't even know
40,
where we ended off. This is written by Steven Moffat. It is called Boom. It is directed by Julie Robinson. Good job, Julie Robinson. The Doctor and Ruby end up on a war-torn planet in which the military-industrial complex and the Anglican Church have formed. The religion is blind. There are mines everywhere. There's maybe too many characters, but it's all taking place in one very tense situation. Will they go boom or will they go bust? Dan, what did you think of the first non-Russell T. Davies episode of this era, written by Steven Moffat? Did you like Boom? Or did you think it was terrible?
I liked Boom. I thought it was really fun. Not quite a bottle episode, but it almost takes place almost entirely in one spot in a little crater. We do have the shots of the base that's seemingly like right next door, because how did Splice get there so quickly? But okay, so we have the base there, but everything pretty much happens in this one spot, which gave us a lot of like the Doctor close-ups, not being able to run around and do crazy stuff.
Yeah, no running. It was a no running episode.
Here. It's all right in his face. Great stuff. We got Ruby dying. We got snow falling. We got a new character that apparently is going to be another companion.
Yeah, and
which is
I
cool.
mentioned that in the beginning. Well, we can. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, but overall, super fun. I did like the secondary characters. Her love interest was pretty cool. I just think it was a nice little character there. Seeing John Francis Vader as a hologram was cool. Yeah, overall, it was great. Some things are a little bit womp, but otherwise, I think it's super fun. Eric, tell me your top line. What did you think of
Well, I would say going into this, there was like a lot of pressure on the old Doctor Who show, not this show, but Doctor Who show. Just taking this season, it was like Space Babies did not like it. The Chord of Doom or whatever, the Maestro episode, really liked it. So it was like this one was going to sort of set the stage for how I think I would feel about the remaining episodes of the season. And with that set, with all of those stakes, I really liked it. I thought it was, there's things I don't like about it, which I'm going to cover. But overall, I thought it was really inventive. I like the idea that it felt like a play, that it was just on one particular setting, that the stakes were very high, that it was an interesting idea. I thought the world building was really clever and great, and the mixing and mashing up of the church and the military-industrial complex and the character interactions, and it felt very much like this is a stage play and we're watching it, because, you know, you go in not sort of knowing where you're going to go. It's like, oh, it's a space battle planet, not knowing you're going to be literally trapped on a landmine the whole time.
Right.
I thought the humor was very funny. The idea that not only was it an attack on like the military industrial complex, but it was an attack on capitalism and healthcare and the health industry, and the fact that the ambulance is the thing that's putting people down. So all of that stuff was great. I enjoyed the actors in all the parts, I guess. But my particular problems with it had more to do with the number of characters and the light-hearted treatment of grief and death. Like, there was just too many things. Like, I didn't feel like the Verada Sethu's character, she did not need that love interest that dies, and nobody even cares that he dies. There's not even really that much time spent on his death.
Right.
Get rid of that whole thing and let us spend more time with the daughter and her, so that you would care about these people. Like, it's only an hour, right? And there was so much trauma, grief dumping. Oh, the girl, her mom's dead. Now her dad's dead. And then here's someone else that she likes. Now she has to deal with death. And then the doctor at the end literally says, like, what did he say? It was something like, enough of that, moving on. And then he squats down, and they acknowledge the dad being dead again.
That's a really good point because
But there's no acknowledgement of her lost love that gets killed. And it's like, you could have just taken that time to, like, have her interested in the blind priest character. Like, maybe they were interested and he's just getting over his dead wife. And that's why he's... and then it's like, okay, there's all more stakes. And her emotion could be more, heavy because he's been killed and the doctor... Like, all of that stuff would have... It was just like one too many bits, and I felt like it was like when someone dies, it should be mean something. It was like they just kind of brushed off those deaths at the end. Even the doctor's dancing and like so happy that the dad, your dad is in the computer, but he's dead. But I mean, Ruby kind of brings that up, and then that's where I start thinking like, is the doctor aware this isn't real? So he's like, everybody dies because none of this matters because it's not. But I think you can't look at it like that. You have to just deal with the story as the story. And I felt like in that regard, it failed to make it meaningful. It was just a lot of cool ideas, but the execution could have been a little bit better.
I gotcha. No, I said earlier that I liked the character, the love interest. I liked the actor. I liked what they were doing. But your point's a really good one. Everything that he was doing for Monday's character could have been accomplished with Vader, who died instead. Yeah. Or time could have just been spent better developing the relationship.
Sure, because I feel like
Splice and Monday even so close at all? Like, how is Vader related to them, if at all? It seems like Monday is now going to have to take care of Splice, but like, it doesn't really seem. We don't have any understanding of why that is. It's
right, and so much of the time, like Splice is just standing there, and you're like, oh right, the Splice is still here.
Right.
Like she's just sort of on the side. Like it was like, I don't know.
Except that she did serve the point of, to your point of like the treatment of loss, the treatment of death and grief. She was the one who's like, my dad's not dead. He's just not here anymore.
Yes.
Which was nice, which is fine.
Which is cool, but not realistic at all. It's like nobody goes from
like
zero to full acceptance in 2 seconds just to make it so it's not going to make kids cry.
We don't know what her religious belief is. So maybe for her, I read it as like she is 100% raised in this Anglican Marine church. She buys into it completely. This is her faith. So I had no problem with that. She can absolutely. That's not my experience. Great though. She was, but what doesn't work for me is what you had said before. For her, it was like, my dad's not dead. He's just not here anymore. But this other guy who just dies, everyone's just like, forget it.
He was just, his death was like completely unnecessary and just.
Having both is the part that doesn't work for me.
Yeah, it's just too much.
Okay.
Too many cooks, which just had a 10th anniversary, by the way. Too many cooks. Can you believe it's been 10 years?
10 more years of never watching it again. Can't wait.
But yeah, all that said, I did really like the episode, and I really enjoyed it. And I thought like the Anglican, just that whole image of the collar and the war machine was interesting. Like you don't see a lot of that stuff.
So
the whole like him being blind, like I was like, oh, is this supposed to be symbolic to the church being blind, that it's become a political thing? But it's not. The church has always been a political.
I was
part
so
of
afraid
society,
with him being blind that it was going to be a Weeping Angels thing. I really.
I didn't even go there. Yeah, I'm glad that didn't happen.
But do you recall the Anglican Marines from previous stories?
No. And I was going to ask you about the quote, "What survives us is love." Was that from Donna's grandfather? Like, who said that to the doctor said that? But stick with your first idea.
That's good. That's really good.
I don't remember who said that.
The Anglican Marines. That was from the Good Man Goes to War story.
What doctor is that?
That was Matt Smith, Amy Pond.
Okay, so I blacked that up. Yeah,
and remember, there's the two Marines. It's a gay couple, a tall, skinny Marine and a shorter.
Yes.
They are the Anglican Marines as well.
Okay, so this is an older idea that we've already been through.
That's been carrying through. Apparently, the evil corporation that supplies all the military goods, whatever it was. It's almost named like villain something, whatever. That's actually been reused before too. Captain Jack Harkness makes reference to them having blown up all of their facilities, and that's where he got his portable.
So I did not realize that this is an older.
There's a bit of these things that keep coming through.
It's cool. Like it's still cool. I like that whole idea.
That they're carrying these stories. these ideas through multiple stories. There's also the Papal Church of the Mainframe, which is somehow related also to this Anglican Marines, but turns into the Church of the Silence. So all this stuff was from like the Silence era of stuff. But anyway, it was great. I was like, the Anglican a church as a military force. This feels like something we've done before, and I had to go back and look at that. So that's where that was coming from. Really
so I got a whole bunch of other things to talk about.
Please tell me.
First off, we also get the Doctor once again, father to father, saying it, reminding us that he is a dad, not just
over and over.
Susan being his like. So and I'm trying to remember like, oh yeah, there is the Doctor's daughter episode, but I don't remember that actually being his daughter. Like you would know because I can't remember that.
Genetically, it was his daughter, but it wasn't his daughter.
Right.
So
in this, it feels like more his daughter. And then you start thinking, oh my God, child. Is that are they not brother and sister? Is that his granddaughter? Like, is somehow the woman that's pointing the Doctor's daughter? Like, because in any case, they remind you once again, they are committing. We are not hiding the fact that it was like, oh, Susan's his granddaughter, but who knows how that happened? It's like, okay, we're going right back to that.
Which is really interesting because I think Davies and Moffat have both done this kind of, well, I guess Chibnall did it as well, but like digging through these pieces of the lore that have just never been explored before. So the whole timeless child thing with Chibnall, like where did this Doctor come from? That's fine. The backstories that we start filling in, these pieces, we get more of the Master getting filled in over many, many, many seasons of different things. I kind of like that they're exploring these areas as well. There was, this actually ties into something else that we see. There was another story that they dug into, like Davros as a child. So that was, what episode was that? Oh, I wrote it down and now I can't. Oh, The Magician's Apprentice. So this is like with Missy and everything. If you remember this still from it, it's a kid in the middle of a battlefield. It's a big empty field. There's just hands sticking out of the dirt.
Yeah.
So that was Davros. So like, oh, what was Davros like as a kid? This actually comes into it because as the Doctor's standing there on the landmine, he's trying to calm himself down. He recites a poem to himself about a thin man and someone who stole whatever. He recites this poem. And that was actually also something that Missy had referenced in that story.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
She knows the Doctor. She tells like 3 different things about him. One of them's a lie, but she says that the Doctor stole the moon and the president's wife.
Really?
And later, apparently, I had to go back and read this too, but apparently the Doctor's like, no, that's not true. It was the president's daughter, and I didn't steal the moon. I lost it. But like, these things come together as well. So you know that I love these, like, all these threads of canon that have come from previous stories coming together. And these are all just very minor things that may not have any huge import, but I just love the texture of adding these things from the backstory. That's all. Just thought it was really cool.
So we also wanted to talk about the fact that Virata Sethu, I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly, appears in this. Now, Doctor Who has done this forever. Colin Baker was in Doctor Who as like a guard or some person before he became the Doctor. So I don't think you can look into the casting as being a clue to anything. It could simply be she was in it, they liked her, they cast her for the next season. But do you have anything to say about that?
You have Capaldi, you have
Capaldi,
Amy Pond, you have also
Torchwood.
We have Gwen from Torchwood, which is the one where they actually explain it. It was like these echoes of genetic history or something.
Oh,
like that.
That's right. Yeah.
So that was actually kind of fun. So yeah, right. Is this actress going to be resuming the same role as the companion, or is she going to be another one of those types of things?
Right.
We'll see.
Like, is Splice also going to be hanging around? Like, is it the 3 of them? I don't think that's the case. I think literally it's like the actress is good, so we're going to cast her as a totally different character, but everybody knowing she's in the show, and now she's in the show is a little strange. What do you think of her
character?
Well, I mean, parts of the character were interesting, but I felt like it was a little bit undeveloped. You get the scene where, hey, do you like me? Check yes or no. Oh, I checked yes. I love you. You're dead. Like, and then all of a sudden she's kind of reacting, but not really. And then everyone's dancing at the end. So like, I don't blame her, but I feel like as far as like the character, I don't know a ton about her.
Yeah.
I know that she's a little bit, I guess, like sarcastic or whatever. And she doesn't realize this guy likes her. But I mean,
I guess I was asking more about the performance, which I think you said you liked everyone's performances.
Her performance was fine again, but it was like the
good.
material didn't like show a ton of range from the character.
For her, you know, she shows up when Ruby and the Doctor are together, and she immediately pulls her rifle on them, is going to fight them, and within 3, 4, 5 minutes, she's now asking Ruby to shoot her to get the ambulance to come to her. So like she switched on a dime, which in one way is like, well, they just wasted too much time and needed to move more quickly in the story to get her where she needed to go. Or it shows that she's actually like very quick, very, you know, perceptive.
Right. Well, she's like also the mine.
She's
the mine expert. And so like there's a lot of scenes that maybe you could trim out a little bit where the Doctor's like, well, first off, let's talk about the mines, right? So the mine, it does a computation to figure out if this is a real target or not a real target.
Right.
Assuming, I guess, if it's not a real target, it's just going to turn off. But there's also the fail-safe. It goes off anyway. I mean, I guess if it can't determine it, but there's a certain amount of time, and somehow she knows, and she'll be like, I think we got like 2 or 3 minutes, and then like 10 minutes go by, and the Doctor's like, how much time's left? And she's like, by my calculations, I wanted her to say like about 5 minutes from the last time you asked or whatever, because it's like, you know, she's not a human computer. Like that was a little strange. But yeah, her turning on a dime like that, I took it as like, yeah, she is someone that makes a decision. She realizes once she knows so much about the mines that it takes a long time for them to say like, I'm on one, I guess. And it was fine. I mean, it's all good. I think she was totally gave a good performance, let's say, given the material. But I think for me, Moffat is a lot like this. Like, I feel like this episode is a really good like glimpse into the way he writes, which is really cool, interesting ideas, and like a lot of spectacle. Maybe not spectacle is the wrong word here, but like really cool ideas, but maybe not too. There's like a shallowness to them in a way.
Yeah. They don't get enough time to get fleshed out.
Yeah.
Except, you know, when he was the showrunner, he would have more opportunity to be like little bits here and there that would pay off later. This with him, definitely only wrote this one episode.
Yep.
I don't know how involved he is in the overall arc as a producer to like get to other places. So yeah,
still good though.
Right,
like, yeah, I don't mean to. I think he's a great writer. Like, I don't mean to degrade his craft or the story. It was still good. It just was like too many. And then, of course, you start overthinking things. And then you're like, oh, did he have one story where it was just her and the guy? And now they're like, no, you got to add in this Splice character. And then they add the Splice character because the Splice character, when I talked about the universe going back together, you splice two things together. We've ripped two things apart. Like, but that's just like a crazy person.
No, I like
thinking those things.
Why not? Let's throw all the stuff into it.
And the Force ghosts were a little weird too. Like at the end, where it felt very much like Star Wars Force ghosts, like Obi-Wan Kenobi, where it's the end of Return of the Jedi, when they're all like looking up at the Tatooine's two sons or whatever, and like the other guy, the dad's like turned around and Force ghost in his way to your heart. That whole end was a little.
I did not enjoy that either, but that's fine.
Yeah. The celebration felt very weird considering two characters people loved died. Right? I mean, but and it was all like, hey, we all die. So, all right.
It could be their Anglican upbringing that Splice was showing. Like, they're not, I mean, they're dead, but they're not gone. I'm going to see them soon.
And Ruby, like, also just sleeps for a lot of it. Like, I didn't love the Ruby, like, when Ruby gets knocked out, almost dead, and then the for some reason, even though the guy was blind and it did the calculations and it wiped her out, it didn't quite do that for Ruby, right? Because she wasn't a convert or something. Like
she wasn't ordained.
Yeah, she wasn't ordained, right? But she spends a lot of the episode lying down, which was like, also it was like there's just too many pieces. Like I would rather have her maybe a
more
little bit
active
more
and-
involved than just, all right, you're out. You're going to be lying down for a while, and then you're going to come to.
She did get to play with the compressed body. That prop
Yeah, that was an
so...
interesting concept. Like, that was cool. Like, the little
Yeah.
mini casket that was like...
What did it make you think of, though? Did it make you think of the master?
The master, like, yeah.
Of course. It's like,
yeah.
oh, but thank goodness.
Same
there was,
technology,
like,
probably.
No reference to it at all. Yeah, well, the doctor didn't... No, he was even... It wasn't that he wasn't referencing it. Like, he had never seen such a thing before. Like, it's like smelting. Like,
Yeah, they kept
we've
saying
seen
smelting.
this, the compression tool, the tissue compressor. Like, I don't know. It was just... If he had said something like, I've seen something like this before, or whatever, that would have been better than a smelter, which was just weird.
Yeah, it was
Anyway,
fine.
Small.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess all in all, I'm happy with it.
Well, can we
so
talk
much
a little
better
bit
than
more-
Space Babies. Yes.
I want you to expound a
Oh.
little, if you will. You had mentioned, obviously, there's the industrial, the military-industrial complex.
Yep. The whole
You know,
like keep the casualty rate at a certain level and all of that.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
The moving
I
mines
guess that
too.
was it.
The moving mines is a interesting concept too, to like put landmines down and then they kind of move on their own. Like they make
order-
a
but
mention
we
of that
find
in the
out-
beginning.
In order to then induce more casualties
Yeah.
on the only military force that's there. It was funny because at the beginning, the doctor's like, oh, Ruby, oh, that was great.
Mm-hmm.
We have all this drama going on. Ruby goes to look for a heavy object, and at that time, the drones go flying by and suck up all the smoke.
That was cool.
First of all,
Yeah.
beautiful shot. Absolutely gorgeous. And then there's that heartbreaking-ish moment where the doctor's like, oh, Ruby, I forgot this is your first time at another planet. And
Yeah.
she's seeing all of this, which was also like the digital backgrounds that they were creating.
Yeah, that
just
was
looks
cool.
so
And also
beautiful.
for the audience, people watching this the first time, it's the first time we're in space, right? No, I guess
Yeah,
the
for
Christmas
people that are-
one. That was the Goblin one. Weren't we in space? Kind of. We were in the floating
We're floating.
Goblin ship. But yes,
Yeah.
that was
But
that
this
was
is
a perfect
very
moment.
much a
Yeah,
brand new-
I really enjoyed that.
Yeah,
There was also some Ruby stuff too, where the snow came back.
right.
Right? So you still have that when she's taken to the point of death, I guess, or wherever we're getting to that baseline Ruby, and like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Is she like a
So-
fixed point in the universe? And it's like,
So
you
this
can't-
all ties
yeah.
into that theory as well. So it's interesting. Like, yeah, where does she come from? She's still trying the whole dad to dad thing, and she wants to find out who her family is. So she even asked, like, the ambulance is going to notify her next of kin, and she wants to know who her next of kin is. So the
Yeah, and it just-
ambulance flakes out and can't
Right,
do
it
it.
can't
which is
figure it out.
Felt very reminiscent of Amy Pond and the whole like she's pregnant, she's not pregnant thing on the
Yep.
scans. Like I felt like, okay, so this is obviously the big mystery. One of the big mysteries of this season is to figure out, who is she and how does that work? And that's all has to be tied to like, well, why does Snow keep appearing when she's under stress, about to die, scared, whatever it
Right.
is?
It's all tied to that moment, and then that interesting. Like, I like all of that stuff, so
But
I'm
the doctor
happy.
really is so dismissive about it. They're kind of at the end and they're talking about like how people die and we're just here for a moment. I actually did I think it was in this episode when he says it's actually a very small time that we're actually alive. We're usually dead.
Yeah.
Or something like that, which is really funny. Which when you look at it, it's like totally true. But we see the snow and he's talking about like the snow landing on the ground and it disappears. Like he's using that whole thing as a metaphor, as opposed to the fact that there's freaking snow in the air out of nowhere that's not moving.
But that was
He
a
just
great
seems
line.
unbothered
Like
by
there,
it.
snow isn't snow until it falls, or something
Yeah.
along those things. The writing was good and nice and poetic, and
It was.
I enjoyed it. But yeah, you're right. I mean, he doesn't. I mean, I guess at
very
some point he's got to
disinterested.
stop, right? Because it's happening almost every episode. Snow is coming, so he was very excited the first time he saw the snow
Yes.
in the Devil's Cord or whatever. So now he's like, yeah, I've seen this.
We've done
It's
this.
snow, but here's a chance for me to sound really smart.
Still very, very strange. Just a couple of things as well. People have probably picked up on this, but just to be more complete about it, there were a couple other references to old Who stuff. The obvious one, fish fingers and custard, is my favorite.
Yeah.
Which was nice. Fine. I didn't need it, but it was
No,
fine.
but it's. I mean, Steven Moffat, like that was his first
nice. Yeah.
official episode as showrunner, so he's like,
showrunner, yeah.
that was, It's all good.
And this one I never would have gotten. This was the internet. Thank you, internet, for it. But the song that the Doctor is singing when Ruby first comes out of the TARDIS to find him, he's singing the Skyboat song. It's the song that he also sings whenever they're trying to time handing off the thing.
Yes.
Apparently, the second Doctor played this on his recorder in the episode Web of Fear. That was the spiders
okay.
in
Which
the-
we
in the tunnel.
reviewed, which I cannot remember, but
It was
I definitely
one that was-
reviewed it.
That one was all mostly telesnaps. Was that right? One of the ones that we
I don't
did
know.
was
I
all
know it's
stills?
on our list.
I remember that being rough because I think only 2 episodes existed and the rest were all telesnaps when we reviewed it.
Oh,
It wasn't
God,
great.
don't
But
bring
he
all
does
that bad memory back.
play that song as well, which is kind of cool. Sorry, this is also very minor. The Doctor's standing there on the landmine. I think he's already put his foot down, so he's holding on to the dead body, and he starts glowing, and he's like,
"Oh,
that's when
yeah.
he says,
Yeah.
me, I'm happening, I'm the explosive." But then it just goes away. Like, why was he starting to glow?
Because
Like,
it was
just
getting
a cool
so
effect.
close to the edge of, because when it would get to the edge, it would turn you into an explosive. That's what happened.
No,
to
I
the
get
dad.
that.
So it was
But then
just so close, and then he calmed himself.
Oh, it was because he calmed. Because I was
Yes.
wondering, like, why wasn't I get why, like,
Right.
the point from the plot, but like, why wouldn't he just stay glowing the rest of the episode?
Because he's cooling down. It's like turning
see.
on a
But it didn't
electric
it
range
didn't drop
and
the
it gets
green
red.
bars though. It didn't drop the green bars either, so they just kept climbing.
I thought
They
it
just went
maybe
climb
it dropped
further.
it, and we just didn't.
It just that one just kept flickering.
Yeah, the way I took it was like it was so close to exploding, and then he calmed down,
Yeah.
and it went back.
Yeah.
I don't know. All good. I think
Yeah.
we covered pretty much everything. I can't think of any other points that we missed.
The one thing I didn't like, this is why I was good at the thing that flashed to me whenever I was talking about at the top level if I liked the show or not. The one thing I didn't like is just all the ambulances showing up.
Oh yeah. Well, the whole ending, not just the ending that I talked about as far as the emotional thing, but the idea that all of a sudden the dad goes in and so much is happening off screen, and the characters are just
Yeah, we
standing
barely
around,
talked
and then
about
all of
that
a
at
sudden
all.
it's like the Deus Ex Machina ending, and then all of a sudden all of these
Almost
ambulance
literally,
are coming from where, and it's the dad, power of love, and he like somehow rewrites all of the ends the whole war, and like, so it was a little bit much.
Yeah,
I think
it was.
And how does the economy that's built on war survive when you take a war away? That's a whole other, I guess.
That is
topic.
so funny that you said it was Deus Ex Machina because it almost literally is.
Yeah.
I mean, not that he's a god, but like,
Right.
Yeah, but he really like. It does feel again, like you said, maybe time was spent in places where it would have been better spent.
Yeah.
In the main story of the plot, and given them a little more space with that, because all of that, like, oh, he's in all the ambulances. Oh, that was all. It felt like.
Right. And so much of it is happening like where you're just being told of what's happening.
Right.
Like,
It's
oh,
all exposition.
So it was like, all right. But again, like, it still was a
Yeah.
good science. And I'd asked last time, I was like, I hope we get a better science fiction story. And this was definitely closer.
Definitely.
The thing I like more than science fiction is sort of the ghost gothic horror. And it seems like based on next episode, that's what I'm going to get.
Oh, I didn't even watch.
I did watch it. It looks
next.
good. I'm not going to look too deep into it because before we know it, we're going to be talking about it again.
Very, very soon. Very last thing before we go, I will mention you said you liked how much this felt like a play the whole way through.
Yeah.
Did you watch any of the behind the scenes things?
I
at
didn't
all?
watch any of the behind the scenes.
This is the one time they almost never do this. This is the one time they actually did shoot it sequentially. It was
Okay.
actually shot like a play.
Yeah.
So it's funny, like it actually read to you on the screen.
And that's
They talk about like the actors talking about like sometimes you have to like jump from scene to scene and remember like, wait, have I done this already or have I done this? And they said this is so much easier because it really was just boom, 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 the whole beats the whole way through, which is kind of awesome.
Right.
So it was cool that it actually showed for you on the screen in that way.
Why do you think, before we end this, that the dad was blind? Like, was that just a metaphor going on in the beginning, or just to show like even a
I'm so
basic
literal.
industry or basic injury is
Yeah.
enough? Like, because he would be blind for 4 weeks, it considers it permanent. But just
I'm so literal. I took the story plot point, the second one. It was just to be the thing to let us know that the way that the war machine itself is
Right.
running is to keep casualties just as certain.
But
level.
I think there's something about sort of a priest that's blind wandering through a battlefield
No,
that's like you can read many things into. A lot of attack, not an attack, but an attack, I guess, on faith too, which was interesting. The doctor
I felt a
sort
little
of
uncomfortable with it, honestly. It was a little too pointed for some reason. Like,
yeah, they
don't
kind
really
of wrap
think
it
of
up in the end where the doctor maybe accepts faith a little bit.
He's like,
more.
I don't have to like it to still have
Yeah.
faith or something like that, which was, I don't know. Like where it ended, I think was okay, but I didn't expect it to be as sharp as
Yeah, it was
that.
pretty. It was pretty much like you're all wasting your time.
Yeah. Where it felt like the doctor would be more like, it's just not for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was a little weird, and then it kind of wrapped up in a way. It was like, okay, we're going to soften this, but that felt just
Right, because
really
the doctor,
strange.
I think, is literally like, religion's for dumb people. Are you
Kind
a
of
dumb
is what he
person?
said.
Yeah.
Right.
So that was much. That was a lot.
Uh.
But hey, what am I complaining? Yeah, I'm done. What do
I think
you got?
we did it. No, we got it all. That's really cool. Very interested to see how each of these little threads that we have pick up as we keep
And
going.
what did you think? Please let us know in
Comment
the
below.
comments. You gotta like. You gotta like.
You gotta
gotta
like
like.
things.
You gotta
like
subscribe.
us.
You
Subscribe to
gotta
life. Subscribe to
save
us.
us from
Tell your
ourselves.
friends.
You gotta
Tell your-
pre-order The Wolf in the Well. You gotta
Oh,
pre-order
what is
it.
that?
Because if it doesn't get pre-ordered, I don't get to write a third book.
Oh,
So,
well, that's terrible.
yeah, numbers matter.
Maybe we can.
But also like and
drop-
subscribe and tell us
drop
what
a
you
link
thought about
to that
this.
in the below, so you can pre-order that too.
Yeah.
Last thing. Eric,
Yes.
This is a thing we haven't done in a long time.
Oh,
People who
listener-
are just watching us on YouTube that haven't seen or listened to our
Yeah,
previous
okay.
150 whatever.
I don't know.
episodes.
We're on 155 now or 156?
I think it's 157. You can see it right above us.
Jesus.
Anyway, I used to ask people on Twitter to give us some of their thoughts before we jumped into this. I remembered to do it again.
Oh,
so
good.
Thank you, folks who actually replied. So we just got a couple here because I did it so last minute, but thank you, super fans. Misfit Scully says that I thought it was bloody brilliant, and you can quote me on that. Done.
It happened.
On Disney Plus, can you see the behind-the-scenes Doctor Who Unleashed program? Very interesting. They don't have that on Disney Plus. A lot of this stuff is on YouTube, but it's all broken up into chunks. I don't know if it's the same as Doctor
I'm
Who
surprised it's not on
Unleashed.
Disney Plus. I did not look, but usually they do that for all the Marvel shows.
The
They
only thing
kind
that's
of live
under
for
the
that.
extras right now is the trailer for
Okay.
the episode you just watched. And it's like, okay. So that's not there, but yeah, really, really interesting. Sean Grimes on Twitter says, I can't help but notice them riffing on Tom Baker era stuff lately. Oh, this is for you, Eric. The Tom Baker stuff. They recreated a scene from Pyramids on Mars, almost note for note, in The Devil's Cord. And now they've expanded the Doctor standing on a landmine scene from Genesis of the Daleks into a whole episode.
I don't
So-
remember the Devil's Cord being Pyramids of Mars. What did they?
I didn't either.
Did they
So I had
cover
to
what
go-
it was?
Yeah, no, they didn't. So I asked, but then I did my own little.
Sure.
Found the transcript from Pyramids of Mars. It's basically the moment where in Maestro, when they go to the future and Ruby's like, this can't happen. I'm from this time. Like, this never happened. How can this possibly be? And it's almost line for line of what had happened with Sarah Jane and the Doctor in Pyramids of Mars, where the God was there and kind of ruined time, whatever. She's like, can go to 1980 and show her that the timeline's been screwed up. They say the following. Sarah says, it's a trick. Doctor says, no, that's the world as Sutek would leave
Sutek.
it.
Yeah, he was on Mars, right?
A desolate planet circling a dead sun. Sarah says, it can't be. I'm from 1980. The Doctor says, every point in time has an alternative, Sarah. You've looked into an alternative time.
Very
so
cool.
that's the whole part,
Yep.
connecting those. And then in this one, to the point of like the Genesis of the Daleks, the Doctor does step on a landmine.
Yeah,
Even
that I
Moffat
remember.
references that. And in the behind the scenes, Moffat's like, yeah, what if we just made that a whole episode? So like literally just lifting
Yeah.
that, which is kind of fun.
But I like those kind of big swings to do that, to make the whole episode
Absolutely.
literally that thing, because sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but at least you're trying new things and not
Right.
the same sort of structure that you get over and over and over.
Absolutely.
So
And
bravo,
lastly-
good sir.
Lastly, Alan Kingsley says, my favorite of the three so far. The daughter felt
me
like
too.
she should have been a few years younger. I'd have brought her more as a toddler or a 5 or 6 year old, but the rest felt like Doctor Who I remembered from the Doctors 9, 10, 11. Good stuff. Splice did seem younger than the actress that she's playing. A lot of like, I'm looking for my daddy, and just like very.
Yeah, well, it's
I
hard to
don't
tell
know.
because we don't know the culture. She did
Right.
like the way it's written certainly could have been someone younger. You brought up the point earlier, like how is she instantly there? Like, are they?
Yeah.
Is the base just over a hill?
Just over a hill. Just
Like
just
so,
there.
you know. You're right. Yeah, like I can see that if it was written to be a much younger, and then they cast this person because they're going to bring Splice back. I don't know,
Maybe.
but again, could happen. We already know that Varda Sithu's character or the actress is in it. I mean,
Actress, at
maybe
least,
that's maybe my whole theory about Ruby regenerating into her is not going to happen. We shall see.
Only time will tell. Lastly, we did get a longer message from Misfit Scully about this episode. Let me just take a couple quotes here. Out of the 3 episodes, this so far was the best and felt like Doctor Who to me.
I would agree with
you
her
were
comment
100%.
there, and also the previous comment. This of the 3, my favorite. Although I really did like the Maestro.
I think Maestro is still my favorite.
But this,
except
I like this. I think this is my favorite.
if this one had a Singing in the Rain musical number to be the same as Maestro, I would go with Maestro instead. Anyway, the script was tight, the cast excellent, the look just right. Love a simple idea of the Doctor stands on a landmine. Shudi's range of emotions had me as an actor, and I regularly felt like I saw Tom Baker seeping out of his performance in this episode. He does a lot of it. I think he's definitely takes some inspiration from Tom Baker.
Yeah, I can see
Or maybe
that.
I'm reading into it because he's one of like the most like iconic
Yeah.
doctors ever. Really cool. Scully does go on to tell us about Varada Sethu as Monday Flynn, and that people had seen that she was going to be coming back in season 2. So it's not a spoiler in that it's already been spoiled that she's going to be, but we don't know the character.
Yeah, we don't
so
know
we don't know
exactly
for sure what's going to happen there, which is kind of cool. That's cool. And Scully does go on to say that the viewing figures haven't been as good because they're doing midnight premieres on the BBC. They're still good, but they're not like what you'd expect. So that kind of stinks.
Wait, I want to throw one thing out, unless you have more points on that email.
Nope, that was
that
it.
I'd wanted to mention, which is the whole Splice thing, and the comment that was, to me, felt like, oh, it's Steven Moffat planting a seed that maybe will be harvested at some point in the future. She will grow up to be the president. Like, so, at some point in the future, you're going to be, there's going to be Splice. And it's like, at that point, she's 40 years old or whatever. And she's the president of some future society or whatever. I felt like it was like, okay, you can just add this one line, and at any moment you can go back to it.
I mean, that is interesting because the poem that I referenced before does mention the president's wife. So maybe she grows up to become a president and has a wife, and the doctor has to say, I don't know. We'll find out. But
Speaking of that, like, doesn't he say she should marry? Oh no, I mean, she's talking about. She says 2 people should get married. The doctor says two women should get married, but I don't remember who they are now.
I don't know. He makes references to.
We talked about the underwater lesbian thing, but I thought he says like to her, like, oh, she could marry her. No, she should marry Ruby, and then she would be something Sunday.
Oh, Monday, Sunday.
Monday, Sunday. Yeah.
Right. Oh, you're right. I thought you were talking about the
That's not connected to what you were saying as far as like her marrying a woman and being the president, but
nope, not at all.
Yeah.
except ladies getting married.
Yeah, that's all.
Hey, that's great.
That's all fine.
All right, I think we got it all. That was all for this. Folks, next time when the Doctor Who episode drops, I will get onto the Twitter and ask you all for your opinions as well. So please, if you feel like contributing, we will read them on the show and respond. So if you feel like it, jump on in.
Okay.
Otherwise, subscribe, and see us in a week.
Peace. Oh, I had this stupid thing on.
It was on the whole time.
Where's my robot,